Alright, so just a quick little lesson here today using the quadratic formula. So let's start with our little warm-up. So here's the quadratic formula that we're going to use. A, of course, the coefficient in front of the quadratic term, which is always the one that is squared. B is always the term in front of the coefficient in front of the linear term. And C is always the constant, the one on its own with no variable in it. So solve each of these using the quadratic formula. So what I like to do is just write a little list of what my numbers are before I put them into the equation. Okay, so A comes from the quadratic term, B comes from the linear term. Be sure to include the signs in there. And C, of course, is the constant. So, solving for x equals negative b. Now, that's the negative of minus 19. So that's going to end up positive. Plus or minus square root b squared. Now, when you square b, be sure to square the entire thing. So put b in brackets so that you know you're squaring the minus as well as the 19. So this will always end up positive. B squared will never be negative, ever. And then minus 4 times A, which is 6, times C, which is 15. All over 2 times A, which is 2 times 6. All right, now start simplifying. X equals 19 plus or minus. Then we need to find out what's under our root sign here. Do some calculations. 19 squared is 361. So that's the root of 361 minus 4 times 15. 4 times 15 is 60. Times 6 is 360. You can double check that on your calculator if you like. All divided by 12. So, under your root sign you have 361 minus 360, which of course leaves you with the root of 1 all over 12. And remember, we have two paths here. 19 plus root 1 divided by 12, and 19 minus root 1 divided by 12. These represent two different solutions for x. So we go 19, x equals 19 plus 1, all divided by 12, which is 20 over 12, and write it in lowest terms. They'll divide by 4 each, which leaves us with 5/3. So that's the top path of our answer. Now the bottom path, we go 19 minus 1 over 12, and then that's 18 over 12. They both divide by 6. X is 3/2. All right. On to number 2. It says solve each of the following quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now, for ones like this, we typically wouldn't use the quadratic formula. And you can see this right away. This is a difference of squares. This would be 6x minus 7 times 6x plus 7. So I'm just going to show you that the quadratic formula will get results that are consistent with our factoring results. And the quadratic formula will work for 100% of quadratic equations. If there is no solution for a quadratic, then the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, will be negative, and you'll know that there's no solution because you can't take the root of a negative value. So let's see what this one looks like. A equals 36 because we know that's in front of our quadratic term. B, now there is no linear term here, so that means that b is actually 0 because there's no term with just an x in it. And c is minus 49. So this is going to simplify our quadratic equation quite a bit. So you go x equals negative b, which is 0, plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 0, minus 4 times a, which is 36, times c, which is minus 49. Now, there are solutions to this one, and we know because a negative here times a negative here is going to be positive. So we're not going to end up with a negative discriminant, so this is going to be okay. And this will all be divided by 2 times 36. So x equals the root of negative 4 times 36, 4 times 36 times 49. I didn't plug the negatives in because I know it's going to be positive, and that's 7,056. So the root of 7056 over 72, and this will be plus minus, and the root of 7,056 is 84. So this is plus or minus 84 divided by 72. So one path, x equals 84 over 72, and therefore x equals, so reduce this to lowest terms. If you can't see the greatest common factor right away, just divide them by 2 as many times as you can, and then start dividing them by higher primes. So if we divided it by 2, we would get 42 over 36. These will divide by 2 again, and we'll get 21 over 18. They won't divide by 2 again, but they will divide by 3 now. So we go 7 over 6. And of course, 7's prime. So we're done. X equals 7/6, which is what we would have found up here with this one. Okay, and let's follow our other path then. X equals minus 84 over 72, and of course they will reduce exactly the same way but with a negative sign. So this will be x equals negative 7/6. That's it for that one. I'm going to leave you to do the third one on your own, and you can come back and have a look at the solution when you're done. So go ahead and give it a try, and hit pause now. Okay, so here's your solution. Take a look. If you got it right, that's great. Move on. If you didn't, try to figure out what went wrong and see if you can fix it. Alright, so here's your turn. It says, which method would you use to solve this quadratic equation? Now, to me, when you have decimal numbers here in front of the quadratic term, we are going to need the quadratic formula for sure. So justify your choice, then solve the equation. Justifying your choice, just knowing that 0.57 will not come equally out of all three of these terms. So A equals 0.57, B equals negative 3.7, and C equals negative 2.5. So x equals negative b, which will turn this into positive 3.7, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Okay, 3.7 times 3.7, 13.69, minus 4 times a, 0.57 times C, negative 2.5, all over 2A, which is 2 times 0.57. X equals 3.7 plus or minus. Now we need to do some calculations. 0.57 times 2.5 times 4 times 0.57 times 2.5 is 5.7. This is going to end up being 13.69 plus 5.7. So you'll notice that I just combined the minus 4 and the minus 2.5. When you multiply those together, that'll give you a positive under the root. And 2 times 0.57 is 1.4. 1.14, my apologies, 1.14. Alright, keep going, 3.7 plus or minus 13.69 plus 5.7 equals 19.39. This is what we're going to be taking the square root of, all over 1.14. Square root of, or the square of 4 is 16, and the square of 5 is 25. This is going to be somewhere in between those, probably closer to 4. Alright, so the square root of 19.39 is 4.4. And we're not quite done yet. So again, we've got two paths here. 3.7 plus 4.4 and 3.7 minus 4.4. So 3.7 plus 4.4 divided by 1.4 is one of our values, equals 5.79. That's one value for x. And our other one, 3.7 minus 4.4, all divided by 1.4. And this will, of course, be negative. 3.7 minus 4.4 with x equals negative 0.5. That's it. Those are your two answers for this one. Moving on. Last one here. The picture measures 30 by 21, so this is what it looks like. You crop the picture by removing strips of the same width from the top and one side of the picture. This reduces the area to 40% of the original area. Now, we know the original area. It's 21 by 30. Alright, so the area equals 630. There we go. 630 centimeters squared. Now, it says we've reduced it to 40% of the original area. This is the original area, so if we take 630 and multiply it by 0.4, this is what's left for the new area. So 630 times 0.4 equals 252. So the new area, we'll call it A sub 2, equals 252 centimeters squared. Now, area equals length times width. And what we did here is we found this area, 252, by taking 30 centimeters minus our unknown width of strip, which is x, and we took 21 centimeters minus the same unknown width of strip. So this is our length. Our new length is 30 minus x, which is our unknown width, and our new width is 21 minus that same x. So we get 252 equals, and then we got to FOIL this thing. So 30 times 21 we already know is 630. And then we go minus 30x, then minus 21x, then plus x squared. Now it's starting to look like a quadratic. 252 equals 630 minus a total of 51x plus x squared. And then I'm going to move everything to one side, and I'm going to just flip these. So I have my x squared term first. X squared minus 51x. Then I would go plus 630, but then we're going to subtract 252 from each side. So 630 minus 252 will leave us with 378. Now we've got a quadratic that we can solve easily with quadratic formula. A equals 1, B equals negative 51, and C equals 378. So x equals negative b, which is positive 51, plus or minus square root of 51 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 378. All right, all over 2. X equals 51 plus or minus, now 51 squared is 2601. 2601 minus 4 times 378, 1512, all divided by 2. X equals 51 plus or minus 2601, so that's 1089. Square root of 1089 all over 2. So we'll check for the square root of 1089, and it is 33 all over 2. 51 plus 33 is one of your paths. So that would be 84 over 2. And that means x equals 42. That's one of our possibilities. And we'll see why that's not reasonable in a minute. And your other path is 51 minus 33, which leaves us with 18 over 2, and x equals 9. Now we have to check whether these answers are reasonable, and I've already hinted that the first one is not. Here's the reason. X represents a width that we are shaving away from each side, the top and one side of the picture. So if we shaved away 42 centimeters, we'd have no picture left. Okay, that's impossible. We don't even have that much to shave away. So we have to reject this answer, and this is the only one we can accept. X equals 9, so that's what we're going to shave away from each side. So that's the answer to this problem. If we took it a bit further, the new picture would be 21 minus 9, which is 12, by 30 minus 9, which is 21. So, and we can double check. 12 times 21. Come on, you. 12 times 21 equals 252, which is perfect because we determined that had to be our new area early on in the question. That's it for today. See you in class.